Drake, BYU fans who have been great on the channel, both mine and yours, they're not their typical cheerful selves right now, right? Yeah. A little bit upset with some stuff going on. Arizona with some explicit chants going on. Let's talk about this a little bit. What's your take here?
Yeah, a choice four-letter word that starts with F. That is where Arizona fans took it during a basketball game against BYU, where the Cougars upset the Wildcats on the road and avenged a loss from a couple of weeks ago. They took themselves in Provo. And when that choice four-letter word is thrown out amongst a whole slew of BYU fans who are predominantly members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that word is thrown out with Mormon, which they don't even go by, but it's F the Mormons was the message that Arizona fans gave to them. Immediately the response from BYU, this is in football and basketball and baseball and any sport, is, hey, where did we become okay with religious discrimination? Now, look, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. If someone goes out to the Jewish community, to the Baptist faith, to those who are Catholic and says, F the Catholics, what? Like imagine the uproar if that was to take place over any religious affiliation, and imagine if you were a conference like the Big 12 and you didn't address it in some form. To this point, the Big 12 has not done so. So to me, it feels like a pretty objective issue that the second we start considering one of the world's fastest growing faiths and their flagship program as legitimate, we have to consider that things like this can't just be, kids will be kids. This is what happens in rivalries. I mean, we did like the Catholics versus convicts thing, and that was a big deal. We weren't making fun of people for being Catholic. There wasn't a chant from the student section saying they hate all people who are Catholic. This is a very strong stance that thousands of students at Arizona took very publicly, that was immediately viral, and the Big 12 has sat on its laurels and not said anything, not done anything about this. TJ, is somebody personally who's not a member of the LDS faith, as someone who personally does go to church, though, is a member of a faith, the last thing I would want is for my faith to be attacked publicly. And then nothing, not a statement from the school, not a statement from the conference, no one in a position of power actually taking up for what I believe in. This is a situation where, to me, the Big 12 needs to be called out. Arizona administration needs to be called out for not addressing this. It happened in football over the course of that season. It happens in pretty much every sport BYU plays, and happened in volleyball as well. And no one's done anything. It's now national enough, now viral enough. To me, the Big 12 has to step in and say, look, religious discrimination, no matter who it's against, cannot take place in this conference.
Yeah, it's so much different. You know, the immediate thing that I think about is how the SEC stepped in and said, like, or how the Big 12, said that you can't do horns down, right?
Yeah.
But it's so much different than that, right? Like, if they were,
one of them's a university, one of them's a religion,
right? If they were saying F the Cougars, right? Like, now I like taking my kids to games. I would hope that my university, like, if Florida State was doing that to UF, right? And my kids are there, like, I'm not going to love that, and so I even get that aspect. You know, if it was F the Gators or F the Knowles or whatever, like, I would even be like, oh, man, as a dad of two little kids. Now, if my kids aren't there, I don't really care. But there are other people's kids at all these events and stuff. So even just doing it like, but all that said, if they just said F the Cougars, like, I don't know that they would have a lot of leg to stand on, BYU specifically. Like, I don't think you could say, like, hey, we're members of a faith. You can't use bad words against us. Like, I think you'd probably have to say, like, hey, man, just toughen up and, you know, give it back to them on the court or on the field or wherever. But to invoke the religious aspect of it, you mentioned it. Yeah, if you were to do this against some of these other religions, like, it would be a big deal. And so it's so much worse than horns down. It's so much worse than just the team mascot or whatever. And it is strange to me, hopefully we can get this video out before the Big 12 makes us a liar, but it is strange to me that the Big 12, at least at this point, time of recording this, Monday afternoon, we haven't heard anything on, like, hey guys, let's calm this down a little bit. Like, we're going to start fighting and saying you can't do this. To which then other Big 12 and other programs, ADs and coaches would say, like, hey guys, let's give this a rest. Let's not be, you know, engaging in this kind of activity.
Yeah. Again, you know, as somebody who went to Baylor University, it's a denomination, not a faith within itself, but it's a Baptist school. And for us Baptists, if you said F the Baptist or F those who are Church of Christ, even sects within, you know, evangelical faith, faiths, that is something that I'm sure would create massive uproar. And no fan base has ever, to my knowledge, teetered on. Very seldom do you hear these thrown out when Notre Dame is playing or when Baylor is playing or when TCU, formerly, was playing. But for BYU to have to deal with this and then not have the backing of its own conference or not the backing of the Arizona administration, it is very odd to me. And TJ, you hit the nail on the head. Horns down was such a big thing. Storming the court, 1,000 kids touching the basketball floor after their school upsets a top 10 team. That is a $25,000 fine. And if you're an athletic director, God forbid you call out the officiating in our conference because we're going to fine you $40,000. Don't show your butt. But if you've got students who are doing something this egregious against a faith, that's the point where I have to draw the line. Where for me, again, it almost feels like it doesn't matter the side of the aisle that you're on. It is objective that when we start taking people's values, their faith into consideration in college sports, you've gone too far to demean that. And that's exactly what Arizona did in this situation. It's not just yelling another chant. It is yelling something that is highly offensive to a large group of people, a growing group of people, and a very valuable school in the Big 12. Who's more valuable right now at the conference, Arizona or BYU? That answer is pretty darn simple. And I feel like we should be giving a lot of love to the Cougars from the conference level in a situation like this one.
Do you think that the Big 12 will eventually stand in and say something? Do you think this is kind of you said it happened at other times. This wasn't a one-off scenario. Do you think that they will get pressure from BYU? Do you think that they'll get pressure to eventually do something?
Well, I think someone will have to, and there was like a quasi kind of apology where Arizona tried a little bit to say, "Hey, our bad," but the anti-LDS taunt at the BYU Cougars is something that, again, I have to implore the Big 12 to respond to, because if not addressed, if there's not some sort of fine involved here or a reprimand involved here, it will continue to happen. And then at what point does the buck stop? If we get to a game in a couple months or a week where Baylor and Arizona are playing in football or basketball and it's F the Baptist, I can guarantee you that's a hard stop right there. There would be reprimand for that. Why aren't we seeing the same thing here in the situation?